attitude is that when the Pilgrims stepped off Mayflower 390 years ago onto Plymouth Rock, the environmental consciousness in this country was already about 10,000 years old. I give the first credit for the environmental consciousness in this country to the Indians, to the Native Americans. They had a completely different relationship with nature and with wilderness than the Europeans did. The Europeans came over with a Judeo-Christian attitude that nature had to be dominated and subdued. And the natives had, in practically all of their religions in both continents, had a different kind of connection with nature, a spiritual connection. Well, on Earth Day 1970, there's Los Angeles. The air was so polluted that they said that sometimes it was like breathing 2 packs of cigarettes a day, just breathing. And that was one of the things that helped trigger the first Earth Day. In Ohio, the Cuyahoga River caught on fire twice. It was so polluted. Up in Santa Barbara, just up the coast here, the first of the giant oil slicks happened. So these kinds of issues were bringing the environmental issues to the fore in a pretty powerful way. And 40 years ago today, Senator Gaylord Nelson, a Democrat from Wisconsin, one of the early leaders in the United States Senate on environmental issues, he was a Democrat, and Republican Congressman Pete McCloskey from my hometown, from San Mateo, started the first Earth Day. And it was an idea, they called it a teach-in, and they wanted all the schools to have events to help focus kids on environmental issues. Well, the thing was a huge success. 20 million people got involved on the first Earth Day. They got a lot of press coverage and a lot of participation. And then one of the most important things that they did was that they targeted 12 congressmen that had the worst environmental records in the U.S. Congress. And they called them the Dirty Dozen. There was a movie out there that was called The Dirty Dozen. There was a Lee Marvin World War II movie. Anyways, they called these congressmen the Dirty Dozen and said, these guys are terrible on environmental issues. Well, in the next election, 7 of the 12 got beat. And it freaked out the Congress, the whole Congress, every one of them wanted to be an environmentalist the next day. And so that was the time. Well, I've never been a big fan of Richard Nixon, but Nixon did have good political antenna. And Nixon saw the success of the first Earth Day when the bipartisan Congress passed all the laws after in 1972. It was the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, the Endangered Species Act, the Marine Mammals Protection Act, the Coastal Zone Management Act. All of the big legislation came whizzing through the Congress right after the first Earth Day, before the people that don't like that kind of thinking could get organized and start fighting back. Because two of many issues is population. I mentioned that I'd gone to Cairo to do this population video. It took 10,000 years of human species on the planet to reach the first billion. We didn't reach the first billion until the 1850s, when gold was discovered here in California. That was the first billion. Now we get another billion every 10 years. But those of us that care about this kind of thing, and that includes all of you, we have a lot more influence than we may understand. So my feeling is that sometimes you get accused of being idealistic because you say, well, we got to save the Earth, trying to protect the planet. To me, it doesn't sound like idealism at all. It sounds to me like survival-oriented pragmatism.